All right, welcome into the Final Yard postgame show here on the YouTube channel, the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Skolnick. We're going to have Jacob Michelle in here. Also, we'll have Louis D. Sung. He's just dealing with some equipment issues. I'm actually at the stadium. I apologize for some of the background noise here, but the Dolphins beat the Jets 31-24 here at the stadium, win their 6th straight game to go to 7-1 on the season. So now, 7-7 on the season. Still sort of on the fringe of the playoff race, but they're still in it. They're still in the hunt, as we say. Today's slow start. Tua Tagovailoa did not play his best game, had 2 interceptions, including a pick 6 that went the other direction, but made the plays at the end of the game. They win 31-24. They pressure Zach Wilson. The big story today, though, Duke Johnson with 107 yards rushing on 22 carries. It made you wonder maybe why they weren't playing him a little bit more, a little bit sooner. Obviously, they picked him up after he was released again. This is a guy, obviously, who's done this in this stadium for UM before. He just clearly looks like the best back on the roster, even though Myles Gaskin had a big run today of 30 yards. So we are going to be joined by Jacob here eventually. We want to take your comments here the best that we can while we're dealing with some of the technical issues. And obviously, I know Tua is going to be a story today because he's always a story. He did make some throws that were a little late on time, particularly that out pattern that went for the 6. The early throw that was a little bit inexplicable in terms of what he was seeing there because he had an open receiver. And again, later in the game where he had Devontae Parker open and threw it to Gesicki in triple coverage. So again, I know there's going to be a lot of Tua conversation, but he did make the plays at the end of the fourth quarter. And also, look, we can talk about the opponents they played during this stretch, but this team could have quit. They were 1-7 on the year. I think in some ways it's better they didn't have their own draft pick this season because there was no push for them to tank or anything like that. They didn't look great coming out of the bye, but then after they come back, played better as the game progressed today. And again, defensively, got after it, 6 sacks, constant pressure of Zach Wilson, a lot of blitz pressure, even not having Javon Holland, which did prove to be an issue early in the game, getting the defense set up, but they adjusted to that as the game got on. So we're going to try to take comments here. I've sort of been left on an island by the rest of the hosts. I don't know if Manny wants to join me here. Today we got to a turn of a over. Again, I know that most of the focus here is going to be on him because it always is. I will say this, though. He made enough plays to win the game late. That's not something that Zach Wilson was able to do at the end of the game tonight. And again, I do think that the big deal today is that there was a little bit of a running game that came in, which they have not had this season. Myles Gaskin had the most rushing yards in a game this year with 89. Only once has a rusher gone over 70 yards on the season, and that was that performance. We saw from Lindsey, and now we saw again from Duke Johnson, that guys can come off the street here, and I'm joined by Jacob. Guys can come off the street here and look better than the backs that they've had this season. I don't know what that says about the Dolphins' evaluation of running backs. It certainly should be looked at as a positive here, but to me, Duke Johnson is running back 1 the rest of this year.
Yeah, I completely agree. Myles Gaskin was expected to come in here and lead the backfield, but he had COVID all throughout the week. So Duke was able to come in and take some of that playing time from Gaskin, and he totally was efficient with that playing time. And he broke tackles that Gaskin probably couldn't have broken himself, and he outplayed everyone in the running back room, which is really impressive. And I totally agree with you that he should be the running back 1 here on out. It was a great signing by Miami, and he looked very powerful on every single run he had.
Yeah, there's a few things here that look different with him as the running back. First thing, ability to see the hole, which sometimes we know that Gaskin doesn't always see that right away. Second, the ability to hit the hole quickly. It's another thing that I think Gaskin has struggled with. But also, the stiff arm. I did not know the stiff arm was something a running back could use this year. And, we've criticized the Dolphin offensive line for a lot of different reasons. They created enough creases today. I wonder if Duke was not the starter today, if they hit some of those runs. Because, again, he was able to get to the second level pretty consistently. And then with the stiff arm was able – he doesn't go down on the first hit. That's different from their other backs. And I've never been a guy, as we bring Lewis in here, I've never been a guy that says you draft a running back in the first round. I typically don't believe in that, particularly high picks. But we've seen the possible league MVP that they passed on. Many other running backs. I don't know if it's the joke. I don't know if it's your joke or Juan's joke, Lewis. Hey, I get to watch another running back in college that the Dolphins will pass up on. But I do think it's interesting that a guy who, Dolphin fans have been pushing for them to bring in Duke Johnson for the last 5 years. pretty much. They wanted him to draft him. And this is one of those cases where it's like the fans look smarter than the organization does because this is, again, I'm not saying he's the long-term answer. I don't think anybody is, okay? But I'm saying for this season, he's better than the guys that they have, and he was just out there for anybody.
And so was Philip Lindsay, and that's kind of the thing about it that's just so wild to me, is that we've had this guy sitting in our backyard. Not only sitting in our backyard, sitting on the doggone practice squad, just waiting around for his opportunity. And now here he comes. Now maybe you can say it's the Geno Smith effect. He's at home. He's back where the U likes to play. So maybe that has something to do with it. But just watching this game alone, the difference between him and Myles Gaskin is night and day. And maybe fresh legs has something to do with it. Maybe. I don't know. But it just seemed to me that even when Duke was starting to look really tired, because he started to wear down, you could tell that he was starting to run out of gas at the end there, which I'm fine with. You run the running back as long as you can. But even both times, Gaskin had an opportunity on 3rd and 1, and he failed both times. Duke Johnson easily gets there. And by the way, thank you, Juan J. West. Is that our boy Juan right here?
Yes, that is our boy Juan.
Duke Johnson won't have more than 110 rushing total the last 3 games. Yeah, you know why? Because they won't let him play the ball. They're going to put Gaskin back out there, assuming that he's the best guy because he's
Hey, Juan should take that money and put it on Prize Picks and go under on Duke Johnson. Then instead.
There you go.
Yeah,
us. Exactly.
Okay, use the code 5 if you decide to do that. But here's the other thing about it. And again, nobody is saying he's running back 1 going forward. Okay, but you're talking about the last few weeks here. The other thing about it is play action actually worked today. Now they weren't able to exploit it, but you can tell, like where we're sitting, we're behind one of the end zones. You can tell when the defense hesitates a little bit when you're faking to a run or when they don't, okay? And this is the first time I've actually seen this season. Now, maybe it's because the Jets aren't particularly disciplined, but when there were fakes to Duke Johnson in the second half, the defense reacted to it. And that is not typically what has happened with their other backs this year. So, look, Myles Gaskin is to me, he's an NFL player. He's not an NFL starter. They've been through this now for 2 weeks. He's a nice story. He's a good player to have on your team. He can fill some different roles, but he doesn't see the hole quickly. He doesn't hit the hole quickly. He doesn't break tackles. And so if those are 3 things you're looking for from a running back, you saw someone who just looks like a natural running back today. Like Duke Johnson looks like a professional running back. All right, and I'm going to let Lewis sort of take over a lot of this as we go. But let's talk Tua because I know people are going to want to do it. Jacob, not his best. Completed 60% of his passes, but it wasn't really that. It's the 2 decisions that he made. What did you see on the 2 interceptions?
You usually get that 2-1 mistake. Today it was more like 3 or 4 mistakes. And the 1 pick 6 was costly because that defense was holding the Jets to like 0 points in the second half. And then Tua comes out and possibly does the worst thing you could ever do in that situation and throws a pick 6 right there. I think Tua, the absence of Waddle made him look a little bit worse off than he usually is because he usually has that safety net as Jalen Waddle. But you see Isaiah Ford and guys like Devontae Parker step up. But Tua had a lot of mistakes today. I usually am a big supporter of Tua, but today I did not see a lot from him in the passing game. And if Miami's gonna win out, they're gonna have Tua step up and not play like that.
Lewis, I had him at like maybe a C to C minus today. Which I think maybe give him the C because he did respond well late on that last drive. But I'd have a hard time kind of giving him a better grade than that. Where would you put him?
Honestly, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give him a B minus simply because this is the reason why. Yes, he had a bad game, but a bad game for Tua. If this is a bad game and we're still managed to score 31 points, then it is what it is. Now, I know that Duke Johnson gets most of the credit for that, but you know what? That's what an NFL team is supposed to have. They're supposed to be a balance. You shouldn't be only giving good grades to your quarterback if he does the whole thing by himself. Tua made mistakes. Unquestionably, Tua made inexcusable mistakes. Both times he threw interceptions, it was because he was looking at the one guy the entire time and the defense read it. That's going to be his main thing, and he needs to learn how to not do that so much. He needs to not stare down his one guy and just throw it. But that will come with time. That will come with better blocking as well, by the way. Because if he has to train himself to get the ball out as quickly as possible, then things like that will probably happen. So that I'm still blaming Tua for that. Nevertheless, but Every time that he made a mistake, he came back and he fixed the problem afterwards. And that's why I give him the B-, because while he did make his mistakes, he made up for it afterwards, and he eventually threw the game winner right there. So
I actually think his best quality, Lewis, to me, is always his resilience. He doesn't seem to let it linger in that way. He also had the run today, which I'm not sure Brian Flores will love, but the crowd did, his teammates did, where he lowered his shoulder and picked up a couple of extra yards. I could be convinced maybe to put him in the B- range. He was a little erratic today, but I like the response.
I would have put him in the B- category if he didn't throw that pick six. I thought that pick six really shifted the game around.
Well, Jacob, that reminded me, and this may be because you're a little younger than me, but Jay Fiedler threw a bunch of those against the Jets, if you recall. That reminded me of that out route that always seemed to go the other direction.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, generally, sometimes Jay wouldn't respond to it. Tua responded to it, which is positive. I want to do a general thing here, and then again, I'm going to turn it over and let Lewis run point here. When I take a look at a 6-game winning streak, I know Dolphin fans are going to downplay it because that's what they do. We only beat this team, this team, this team, this team. I already saw a lot of that on Twitter. But the reality is I do think that the coaching staff deserves some credit here because whether or not they had a first-round pick they could tank for or not, typically teams that are 1-7, if they're dealing with some injuries as well, will go the other direction and just let go. We have seen this, Lewis, this is a trend of Flores teams. They get better as the season goes on. I don't know if that's an indictment of what they're doing early or we should praise them for what we're doing late. How should we split that?
I think that the problem is that they make adjustments too late. And this is one thing that I am always going to be suspect with Brian Flores is simply that his decisions with his personnel, they baffle me. The plays themselves seem to be okay. You would think you watch the play and you think to yourself, if it's this guy, the play will work. But instead they threw out this guy instead, and thusly it did not work. Again, I will bring back the example. 2 times on 3rd and 1. All you have to do, you see that Duke Johnson is getting 4 or 5 yards every single time he carries the ball. Why are you giving it to Myles Gaskin and on 3rd and 1 and both times he fails? It's I'll give Gaskin a kudos for getting the 30-yard run. That was pretty much the only good thing he did all day. The real MVP of this game was Duke Johnson. And so with that in mind, I want to give credit to the coaches for making sure that this team did not give up on the season because they haven't. Obviously, they're here 7-7. If they win out, they have a really good shot at making the playoffs. That's wonderful. But this is the same type of thing that I always have to question. Why are you doing it with this particular person? Why are you not using the best players for the best situations, and instead you base it on what exactly? On what basis do you take out Duke Johnson, and instead you hand it off to Gaskin on 3rd and 1? He doesn't get it because Gaskin's not a power runner. Then on 3rd and 1 again, it's a direct snap to Gaskin this time, and he still doesn't get it because he's not a power runner. Duke Johnson has been bouncing guys off all day. Why would you not give him the football?
Well, it almost seems, Lewis, like what they do with their backs is whoever's not their featured back that day, they use them in the short yardage situation to give the other guy a break. No, I get it, but they're the only team in the league that does that. They do it all the time. If Gaskin was the starter today and let's say Ahmed was the second back, they would have used Ahmed in those situations. Or Malcolm Brown. It doesn't seem to be based on the actual body type of the runner. It seems to be just based on the other guy needs a breather. I don't understand it either, but it's what they've done. But Jacob, micro versus macro here, because I think that's the conversation. Because I think on the macro, I think we all agree going from 1-7 to 7-7, putting yourself in this position is a significant accomplishment. On the micro, there are still things that they do that are flabbergasting. So, which side are you on here?
Macro, obviously, it seems like a good thing that Miami's on this winning streak, but Brian Flores in the future is going to have to fix these slow starts because it's happened now 2 years in a row, and he can't be having these 1-7 starts like that. No team has started 1-7 and made the playoffs. I know Brian Flores is a second half of the season coach, but macro, looking forward, he's going to have to turn that around. Micro, obviously not a great game today, very sluggish coming out of the bye. Miami seemed to lose a lot of momentum coming out of that bye week, but if they could bounce back on Monday night against the Saints and play like they've been playing, not today obviously, but like previous games, I think they have a really good shot of winning out.
It also kind of showed, Lewis, that Jalen Waddle and Javon Holland are two of their 5 best players right now, aren't they?
I think we knew that, though.
Without both, right?
Yeah, but I think we knew that, though. Like, I'm pretty sure we had a very, very distinct impression that these guys were going to be crucial to the season. And I'm sure that they'll be back next week, and we'll be able to breathe a sigh of relief and say, okay, Tua's got Waddle back. Now we don't have to stress quite so much. And it made a big difference. You could tell that it made a big difference with Tua, because Tua suddenly had his best weapon gone. And and I don't care who the quarterback is, when you lose your best weapon, it's difficult to just go on without them, okay? Some people have it easier to overcome, but it's still your best weapon for a reason. And as for Javon Holland, it's crazy how quickly he's taken control of this defense. I remember when Bobby McCain was considered the captain of the defense, and when he left, things kind of took a backseat a little bit. Things started to fall off, but Javon Holland stepped right in and said, listen, I'm going to figure this out. Don't worry. We're going to get this going. And he did. So now with him out, the defense struggled for a little bit. It took some time to hit their stride, but eventually they were able to get there. And that's what makes me feel a little bit better about this whole thing. And now with the New Orleans Saints coming up next, I'm gonna be hoping that it works out that way. So
I mean, you see Justin Coleman come in and try to be that Javon Holland, and he just was not today. I mean, he's been good the past couple of games, but he missed 2 sacks today that Javon Holland could have easily made. And then the missed interception, 3 crucial plays that he messed up on, and it wasn't pretty, but Justin Coleman, he wasn't the answer in place of Javon Holland at all.
Well, I will say this. The other rookie, Jalen Phillips, I thought played well again today. He increased his pressure as the game went on. I mean, they have found 3 legitimate guys. I thought Ogbah obviously, controlled the game a lot in the second half, the extension. Let me ask you this. Let me throw this one at you, because it's interesting to me in certain games like this without the top target, without Waddle, Parker's coming back from injury, obviously. You can't trust Wilson. Williams is a non-factor this season. Will Fuller's in witness protection. You'd expect at some point here that, like, this would be a Gesicki game. Like, I sort of expected Tua to target him more than he did. So let me throw this at you. If you can only extend one, Ogbah or Gesicki, who do you extend?
Gesicki.
You feel the same way, Jacob?
Yeah, I go with Gesicki. Obviously, he's got to get more in the game plan in recent games, because we've just been using him on the short out routes and the RPOs. Gesicki's that big-time player that you could look through across the middle, and he'll get there. But, yeah, Gesicki, even though he's trending down and Ogbah's trending up recently, I mean, I love Ogbah, but Gesicki's a must extension.
Lewis, why do you say that? Because typically pass rusher is a more premium position than tight end, right? Also, they've drafted a ton of tight ends, I mean, for what it's worth.
Okay, so the reason why I say Gesicki is simply because when you find a weapon like Gesicki who can do the things that he does, he has one of the widest catch radiuses you can ever find. He has this attitude of just the whole team kind of follows his lead. You can kind of feel the energy that he exudes. People like him. People appreciate him. And that's not to say I don't appreciate Emmanuel Ogbah and everything that he's done. He's been fantastic for Miami. But when you put me in a position where I have to say you can only keep one and the other one basically has to go bye-bye, I trust this team to be able to develop defensive players much more than I trust them to develop offensive players. We already have a stud tight end in Mike Gesicki, and I don't care how many times they draft a new guy. I don't think Hunter Long is going to come in here and be the same guy that Mike Gesicki is. As far as Emmanuel Ogbah goes, I think we can eventually find another Ogbah, just because I know that this team can coach defense a lot easier than they can coach offense.
You mentioned Hunter Long. There was a big whiff on a block today too.
And Hunter Long was the intended receiver on that pick 6, just to mention. What was he out there for?
Yeah, no doubt. I'm going to let you guys take it from here a little bit. Keep the comments coming in. I'm going to try to jump on a couple of these Zoom calls and maybe pop back in afterwards, okay?
All right, sounds good. Thank you very much, Ethan. All right. So, by the way, sorry about the delay, everybody. I was kind of having some issues with my computer. It crashed right before I could get on there. But now, this is something else that I want to bring up, and this is why I feel like this team actually has a decent shot at what's going on. So, the Dolphins are going to be facing off against the Saints coming up next, and I'm sure that people are going to be watching the Saints game very closely to kind of get an idea of what's going to be going on, what they're going to have in store for us. I'm not even remotely concerned if it's Taysom Hill who's going to be the quarterback. I'm not even the least bit concerned if it's Trevor Siemian who's going to be throwing the football. Like, even if Jameis Winston did come back, even then I wouldn't particularly be scared. The only thing that I'm really scared of, and this is only because I know what kind of a dangerous weapon he is Alvin Kamara. Like, he's really the only, like, we got gashed by the likes of Michael Carter and Tevin Coleman today. Kamara, he's a stud. He's one of the best running backs in football. That's somebody we have to be scared of.
I mean, I had him on my fantasy team all year. I could tell you that firsthand. He's been unbelievable. I mean, he missed half the season with an injury, but the guy really just turns around an offense. You see with the Saints, like they were missing Kamara for like the longest time, and he comes back, and like half their offensive game plan is back, and he really could turn around. I mean, Miami's going to have a real problem trying to stop that guy.
Alrighty, and a big thank you to Lee Connolly, my good friend, £5 donation for the super chat. Has to be some offensive line love today. Amazing what a competent running back can do. Yeah. I'm going to give them credit for run blocking. I'll give them that because run blocking. Yeah, not pass blocking. Pass blocking is still trash.
I was looking. I kept my eye on Jesse Davis a lot today. I mean, every single time Tua was pressured, it was literally him giving up the pressure on that side, and it's just he just had a terrible game today. I mean, I don't know if he let up a sack, but yeah. What else is new? There you go.
Yeah. So I will give them credit for the run blocking because I think there's something to be said about the fact that Duke Johnson is a more decisive runner. Like, he didn't do like Gaskin where he kind of dances around in the backfield, tries to look for the opening, and then he gets tripped up because he waited too long. Johnson just runs, and that's what we need. Just a single cut back who's going to take off and run. And maybe that's all Miami needs. Like, maybe we need to stop having running backs that are just kind of looking for the opening. Just pick one and go, and then fall forward.
I mean, there was this one 25-yard gain. I don't know if you remember the play, but it was called back by 2 holding calls. I mean, that was the only time really the run blocking. I mean, there's a couple times that they got holding calls, but Duke Johnson dodged like 4 or 5 tackles. And I'm like, the last time I saw that was Jay Ajayi in 2016. It was impressive about his his tackle shedding ability, and we haven't seen that in a long time.
No, we definitely haven't. And so now somebody is asking what I see there from Perfect Q. Broncos and Bengals are playing. Who should the Dolphins root for? So honestly, that's where you have to get into some scheduling.
Bengals.
The Bengals. All right. Yeah. So how come the Bengals? Explain it for us.
I just saw it in a Twitter thing. I mean, I don't know the reasoning behind it, but on the root sheet, it's the Bengals over the Broncos. I'm not sure how analytically that stacks up, but the short answer is the Broncos or the Bengals.
All right, so we would have to like pull up the playoff simulator thing in order to really get an idea of what's going on. But Jacob says that we're rooting for the Bengals, which is kind of gross for me because I really, you know, it's funny. I'm gonna say this, Jacob, and honestly, it's kind of crazy how this has all gone down. You notice that Tua never gets compared to Joe Burrow anymore. Like, no, it's only Herbert. Only Herbert.
Yeah, and occasionally Mac Jones.
But nobody, like, Joe Burrow is like already the forgotten man. Like, all of a sudden, like, nobody cares about Joe Burrow. He was he went first overall. Let's not forget that. But nobody cares about Joe Burrow anymore. I don't know what happened there. I don't know why suddenly the only one you're allowed to compare him to is Herbert and Mac Jones. It's very weird.
Yeah, well, I think it's because Miami passed up on Herbert, and that's the whole comparison thing. But yeah, it is bizarre.
Yeah, and also I'm going to point something out for Jermaine King saying that Gaskin is the third down back. No, just no. That was the whole reason. I think did you say that only to get me mad again? Because I'm starting to feel like that's what it was. Like, again, 3rd and 1 twice today, and he failed both times.
Duke
Both
Johnson, his
times
whole
he failed.
career, Duke Johnson's whole career was a third down back, and he came out looking like an RB1 today. So
Mhm.
that just goes to show you. I mean, don't get me wrong. I will not slander Myles Gaskin. Like, I'm a big fan of that man. Just drafted in the 7th round. He's produced more than what we've drafted him for in the 7th round. But at the same time, Duke Johnson came out here and solidified the RB1 spot, and looked much better today.
I don't care. I don't care. I'll slander Myles Gaskin. I'll slander him all day long. And you know why I slander him? Because he failed on 3rd and 1 twice. It's not that hard, man. Like, just you see what Johnson is doing. He's not even that Johnson's doing anything special. He's just picking a hole and running. Don't wait. What are you waiting around for? Just go. Just go.
And he's a tank. He's dodging tackles and people are bouncing off of him. Like, we haven't seen that either.
I'm not going to sit here and say that Duke Johnson and Philip Lindsay. I'm going to give Philip Lindsay credit too, because he looked really good at the time that he was here too. I'm going to give him credit for it. But I'm not going to sit here and say that they're the long-term answer at running back. But you better believe that if I have to choose between Myles Gaskin and Savon Ahmed or Duke Johnson and Philip Lindsay for training camp next year, it's no question who I'm picking. Okay? Like, none whatsoever. I'm definitely picking Johnson and Lindsay over Gaskin and Ahmed. Because I have seen nothing from them to make me feel like they deserve it over those two.
Yeah, and I hate to bring up the what ifs, but if Miami just drafted like Javonte Williams before he got picked, like that, he would have fit perfectly in this offense, in my opinion, because he's the best block or tackle shedder right now. Miami needs to draft a running back. Like, I know Ethan's not so keen about drafting running backs in the first round.
In the first round, yeah.
In the first round. If one drops in the 2nd or 3rd round next year, I think Miami needs to trade up or not get robbed again like they have every single year so far.
Yeah, if they need to get a running back. I'm wishing. I don't think it's going to happen, because I still feel like that. And this is where I get really frustrated with coaching regimes, not just Flores. It's pretty much anybody that's been a head coach. They always have this mentality of proving that they were right. They need to prove that they were right. And I'm going to give, this is one of the things that I don't appreciate Chris Greer for, in spite of the fact that I wrote my column saying we need to give him some credit. We do. We need to give him some credit for the players that he picked. But I'm going to judge him all day long for, again, ignoring running back. That's 2 years in a row that there were excellent running back prospects, and he let them escape twice. There were several of them they could have picked from both years, and they didn't pick a single one. The only one we got was Jared Doakes, very last one in the year. And I thought we were going to get a chance to see him, but that didn't happen because, but I need the Miami Dolphins to realize that the quality of your running back matters. It does. It really does matter. Ricky Williams, I remember that it was, I think it was still Jimmy Johnson, right? Jimmy Johnson was still here, that he gave up the entire draft class just for my, no, it wasn't Jimmy Johnson. Dave Wanstead was here by then. It was, who was it that had, it was when, what's his name? He was the coach for the Saints at the time. I can't remember his name now. Mike Ditka.
I don't think I'm old enough for that one.
Maybe I'm going a little past my punching weight too. But I remember that the coach of the Saints at the time gave up the entire draft class just to get their hands on Ricky Williams. And so Miami, when they did it too, they wanted Ricky Williams that badly because he was that kind of a running back. What would you give up? What would you give up if you knew Mike Ditka? That was the name. That it's like I knew his name, but I couldn't. I wasn't reminding me. Mike Ditka. That's right. Thank you, everybody. So yeah, he gave up the entire draft class to get his hands on Ricky Williams, a running back, not a quarterback, a running back, a generational running back. Now you tell me, if the Tennessee Titans said that they were open, not even that they were like looking for a trade, but that they were open to trading Derrick Henry, what do you think? What would he be worth to you to get your hands on him?
I don't think it'd be a good decision, but like his market price would probably be at least 2 first rounds or maybe 3.
But why would you think it would not be a good decision, knowing who Derrick Henry is?
Because Miami needs to use those picks as capital, and they need to build the O-line. And I don't think trading 3 first-round picks for any player is a good idea.
You still want to draft offensive linemen? And
no, I didn't mean draft offensive linemen. I mean just have it as capital for in potential trades or for.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yes, that's yeah. Okay. Trading for guys. I'd rather just pick up some free agents, man. Like I know Brandon Scherf's going to be a free agent. Teron Armstead's going to be a free agent. There are going to be guys available. Heck, I'd even bring back Ted Karras. I'd bring back Ted Karras before I stuck with Michael Dieter again for the center position. Like the only one who's on this offensive line that I would be willing to stick around with is Robert Hunt.
Yeah.
Like, go sign Eric Fisher. Go sign Teron Armstead. Go sign Brandon Scherf. Buy your offensive line. Throw all the money at the offensive line. I don't care anymore.
Did we hear Austin Jackson's name called today? I don't think I really heard much of him.
You know what? No, and you know what? I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, that is.
It's like you didn't hear anything rotten. Like I was
just watching Jesse Davis's side the whole game because he was just struggling.
I kept waiting for it. I kept waiting for the call. Holding offense number 73. like, oh God, there it is once again. But no, it didn't happen this time. So, woo! Like I guess we can call that improvement.
Yeah.
So, now, from Marcus Hunter because he was drafted in the second round. Are we referring to? Who are we referring to there when he said that he was drafted in the second round? I don't know who we're talking about. Is that Derrick Henry? I don't know who you're referring to with that. So anyway, now going back to this game, and I want to bring back the whole Tua discussion very briefly because I want to establish something here. I'm not going to sit here and say that Tua had a good game. He did not. But my rankings and grades, I kind of put it on a curb. Okay, Marcus Hunter says Henry. Okay, so Derrick Henry. Okay, thank you very much for clarifying. I kind of grade on a curb simply because I understand what this team is currently going through. When you have an offensive line that can't pass block, I'm sorry, you have to give your quarterback a little bit of a break. You have to, because everybody wants to pretend that if Justin Herbert were here, he'd be able to make this offensive line look like a superstar offense. I don't buy it. I just don't. Like, I can't think of any quarterback who would be able to make plays regardless of what happens. You see, even Patrick Mahomes, is for him. The standard is he's struggling for him. Obviously, Mahomes is still really, really good, but he does not look like the Patrick Mahomes who has been freaking invincible for the past couple of seasons, that he can't be stopped no matter what you do. Teams are starting to figure out how to stop him. And a lot of that has to do with you start to make him play a little too much backyard football, and he starts making mistakes because backyard football cannot be sustained forever. It can't. You're going to start making mistakes. And so you force him to try to make plays all the time. Eventually, things are going to start to go your way on the defense. So I always grade things on a curb. So that's why I give Tua the B-. It's not just because he made his mistakes. If he had not made those 2 mistakes, I would have given him an A, because that's the kind of game that he had. For Tua, that's a bad game. And if he had given, I would have graded him lower than that. I would have graded him much lower than that if he hadn't come back and made good drives right after the bad drives. The fact that he answered back, the fact that he was able to get them the lead again. Yes, Tua gave up those points. Did he get them back right after? Yes, he did. You cannot dismiss that. We can point at the bad stuff all day long. And on this show, a lot of the times we do tend to focus on the bad stuff a lot of the time. And I don't like doing it, but we have to talk about it because it's there. But for Tua, in this particular case, yes, bad stuff happened, but he answered back. That was the difference for me. The fact that he answered back and he came back. And not only that did he come back, he came back in the big moment. He made that mistake and gave him the points. But when the time came and they needed to score again, he got them to score again. And that's why I give him the B- and not the C+. I would have given him a C+ if it had come down to like a Jason Sanders field goal at the last few seconds. Then I would have given him a C+ or a C- or something along those lines. But he came back and scored a touchdown. He basically said, okay, I made a mistake. Let's make up for it. Touchdown. That's what made the difference for me.
I mean, you look at the numbers. You got 196, 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. In reality, probably should have had 4 interceptions. The one that got dropped, and then the throw into triple coverage in the end zone to Gesicki. Tua's going to have to learn. Gesicki will be there in the end zone most of the time, but you gotta read your options first before you throw that ball, because he was triple covered. I think he had a wide open person in the end zone, and your first read isn't always your best read. And Tua's going to have to learn that. Yes, you could most certainly throw it up to Gesicki 90% of the time. But when they put 3 guys on him, it's very dangerous to throw those kinds of balls. And luckily, it wasn't intercepted.
Yes,
and
I was cringing when that happened.
And then the other thing that I saw from Tua was early on when he had Albert Wilson on that wheel route, and it was just completely underthrown. I mean, yes, he had a guy in his face, yes, but that ball needs to be out in front of Albert Wilson. I hope to see Tua fix that and get a better ball there.
Yeah, there was no excuse for that, and I saw it, and I was like, okay, so this is where the arm strength question comes into play here. Is like, does he have the NFL arm? Can he really make all the throws? The thing is that he's thrown it farther than that in the past. It's not a question of whether he can throw it far. It's can he throw it far and with that same accuracy that we're starting to know him for.
I mean, he did it, and he's done it in Alabama many times. It's
right.
just like,
but what's changed?
What has changed? And I mean, yeah, you look at that play, and there was a guy right in his face coming at him, but you got to lead Albert Wilson there. That was also almost another pick if Albert Wilson didn't contest that defender.
Mm-hmm. And so that's something that we have to keep an eye on. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get ready to wrap this up. I know that Manny has to go and do the Heat pregame show. So it's tough being the guy who does it all. So that's Manny for you. So any final thoughts before we go ahead and bring it to a close, Jacob? We got the Saints coming up next week, and on Monday Night Football, it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna say we kind of caught a break playing the Jets out of our sluggish bye week, because the way we played today was in fact sluggish. Very privileged to play the Jets because they're a very bad team, and we almost shot ourselves in the foot, but we're lucky to get out of this one with a win.
Yeah, for real. We were definitely very lucky on that. All right. So my final thoughts are simply that we got a real good shot here, folks. We can do this. Miami can do this. Right now, again, next week, New Orleans Saints. I get that it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a tough game for the rest of the season. Let's not kid ourselves about it. But this team has shown its resilience some late in this season. They've shown that they know what to do when the time comes. And if Tua can just keep going, and they have at least a 75% chance. That's almost as if a lot of stuff has to go wrong for them to even have as low as a 75% chance to make it to the playoffs if they win out. That's the difference.
Holland and Waddle come back. I'm very confident they're two of our best players, and we get those guys back, and we have a real shot of winning out.
Yeah, so we have a really good shot at winning out. I really think that this team can do it, and all they have to do is just keep doing the stuff that they've been doing today, minus the mistakes, obviously. But we're gonna get Jalen Waddle back. We're gonna get Javon Holland back. Hopefully, they learn their lesson and decide that Duke Johnson should be the running back for the rest of the season. Please, Brian Flores, please don't. I'm this close to writing an article about you. Please do not make me do this. But yes, use Duke Johnson. Use him as the star running back from this point on. Unless
Philip
you have
Lindsay as well.
I saw Philip Lindsay as well. Yes, it's like if you must waive somebody, then go ahead and put Savon Ahmed on IR or something. Come up with some something. Oh, he has turf toe. We're putting him in IR for the rest of the season. Something. But keep Philip Lindsay and Duke Johnson around. For after this game, if the Dolphins decide that they're going to remove him from the roster and waive him because they can't put him back on the squad or whatever, I swear I don't know what I'm going to do, because that would be insanely stupid. All right. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's show. And also a big thank you to our sponsors for today's episode. And that is everythingtradeshows.com. So Everything Trade Shows, really good, awesome, local company here in Fort Lauderdale, but that can service all 50 states. If your company goes to trade shows and you need an exhibit and you need to help get going again, or maybe your marketing team isn't back yet, you have a one-stop shop. Everything Trade Shows. They'll handle logistics, the booth, the graphics, the furniture, flooring. They'll give you some tips on how you can get noticed. All you have to do is go ahead and give them a call at 954-791-8882. Schedule a free consultation by mentioning 5 reasons, and you'll even get a free booth rendering as well. Again, that is 954-791-8882. Mention 5 reasons. They'll give you a free booth rendering, and they'll give you a free consultation as well. All right. Big thanks to everybody for joining us, and we will see you all next week. Monday Night Football. It's going to be fun.